joining us, my man, from our All Eagles PHLY show. We love him. To take a look at day 2 of the draft, Zach Berman. Zachariah, what do you say, pal? What a night last night.
Hey, great to see you guys. Yeah, what a night, right? If you had told me yesterday morning that the Eagles would be on the clock at 22 with every cornerback in the draft available to them, I would not have believed it. If you had told me they were getting Quinyon Mitchell, I would have said, what pick are they attaching to that to trade up? So I think even though I expected them to go offensive line, that was a really good outcome for them last night.
Yeah, it was it worked out perfect. It was such a wild night, Zach. By the way, this portion of the program is brought to you by the Bet Park Sportsbook and Casino app. Download it today. Play along with us. Got to be 21 gambling. Probably call 1-800-GAMBLER. Zach, just the run on quarterbacks, right? Like the Bo Nix to the Broncos changes the draft. The all the offensive players. It was just wild. I mean, and the way it played out, the fact I never thought this would have happened, right? That you have your choice between the two best corners, whether you wanted Arnold or Mitchell. And look, Mitchell, I think, projects as the best pure cover corner. The fact that he's got great closing speed, that incredible stuff. I know Arnold was a converted safety, became the better cornerback over Kool-Aid at Alabama. Nick Saban said it last night that he had an eye for Mitchell, but Mitchell said, no, I'm staying in Toledo. They showed loyalty to me. So that choice seemed to be the perfect fit for them. Did you glean anything Mitchell versus Arnold last night for the Eagles?
Yeah, good question, because I specifically asked Howie Roseman that last night, because I don't want to compare it to Jalen Reagor, Justin Jefferson, where in that case there was one blatantly obvious one, but the comparison is that you had both guys on the board, so you had a choice to make, right? And Howie said, both good players, they had to take the one that makes sense for them. I think that the combination of size speed stands out here, right? 6 foot. He ran that 4.33. Typically with the Eagles, as you know, they lean toward the big school guys, right? So you have the younger prospect from Alabama. That's why on the clock I thought, all right, they would go Arnold here just because they would lean toward Alabama. And Howard Roseman said for them to take someone from the MAC at that spot, he needs to be special. And that's kind of the way they think about Mitchell. So I understand the competition part of it. He's also older, than Arnold, like I said. But when you have that 4.33 speed in a 6 foot, 190 plus pound package, two-time second team All-American. And the other point here, and this is what they really emphasized, and I said this on the show last night, he aced every checkpoint along the process, right? So you have the analysis from the film during the season, and then he goes to the Senior Bowl where, A, you want to see him against good competition, right? But you also want to see him play more press coverage because he didn't really do that much at Toledo. He was one of the best players at the Senior Bowl. Bo Wolf was there. Bo saw it with his own eyes. Then he goes to the Combine, and like I said, runs a 4.33. So every checkpoint along the way, he aces that. I think that gives them confidence in taking the smaller school player.
One of the scouts I was talking to said the only knock is putting his nose in the run game would be his only kind of weakness. What do you hear about that?
Yeah, that's a fair question. And the way he was playing at Toledo is going to be it's different than the way he's going to have to play for Vic Fangio. These aren't perfect cornerback prospects. This is the one thing I want to say here is even though they're getting the guy they thought was the top corner in the draft, it's not a typical corner draft. It's not like Surtain, or it's not like Stingley. It's not like Gardner, right? You're getting a guy at 22 by definition. 21 teams didn't want him there, right? Or had the better options. So I would caution the expectations of him being like a typical top corner in the draft. But I think he has the tools in him, and I hear the competitive toughness. When I talk to people, they mention that competitive toughness. So you would hope that translates to the run fits.
Were they elated? Like when truly elated? Like was it celebratory? Did you hear from people inside the war room?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was more they were proud of the process in the sense that they were able to stick at 22,
Yeah.
keep both these second round picks today. I think that's what they were real pleased with is that they got a player that they liked when they all GMs say top guy on our board, right? But I think in this case that has validity. But the fact that they didn't have to attach another pick to go up and get him, because you know how he often has that urge. He's learned from experience from 2014 that sometimes when you wait, it doesn't work out for you. And they were able to wait, as you mentioned at the top of this, the 6 quarterbacks going. But in addition to the 6 quarterbacks going, the edge rushers going earlier, like Jared Verse being taken. I think that allowed them to kind of sit there and have options. And I was wondering when Troy Faltano was on the board, if they would try to jump Pittsburgh, but they saw what we all saw, that they were in a situation where they were able to get Fatanu or either of the 2 corners, and I think they were happy with any of those outcomes.
All right, so let's talk about day 2. And I made the point earlier, which is exactly this. You didn't have to touch your coffers, right? Like having all those assets, having these 2 assets today, 50-53, is huge. Is there someone you think they'd like enough to package the 2 to move up today? There's a ton of value. There's a lot of good. You want to talk about offensive line prospects. Blake Fisher, who I like a lot, is there from Notre Dame. He's an interesting guy. I don't think Rosengarten kind of fits what they're looking for. He's the tackle out of Washington. Is there anybody that you think has their eye today?
Yeah, so I mean, from an offensive line perspective, if you want that long-term tackle, the Lane Johnson replacement, Kingsley Suamatea, I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly, from BYU. He's someone who I can certainly see on their radar. I'm with you. I really like Blake Fisher. Blake Fisher is someone who I think will be there when they take in the second round. But if they wanted the starting guard, if they wanted to plug that guard spot, Cooper Beebe from Kansas State is still on the board. There's a few other guys who you look at, like Jackson Powers Johnson. He has guard experience. There's a handful of guys there. When I look at what's left on the board, I think there's some real quality wide receivers, and they have that huge A.J. Brown deal yesterday. Good move by the Eagles to do that, but they can still add an explosive threat as the 3rd receiver in this offense. I've been talking about Troy Franklin throughout this pre-draft process. I was surprised A.D. Mitchell slipped. Ladd McConkey's a guy who has some hype to him. So I think there are good receivers on the board.
The kid from Western Kentucky, Malati, he's a player. He's a big-time playmaker.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, especially with yards after the catch. And then there's going to be linebackers there. I don't think the Eagles are going to push linebackers, but Edgerrin Cooper's on the board. Junior Colson's on the board. Peyton Wilson. I know there's a lot of people who, if you can get past the injuries, get past the age, a really good player. And then the one other thing I would mention is that Cooper DeJean's hanging out there, right? And in Cooper DeJean's case, the Eagles got their corner yesterday, but you kept hearing throughout the pre-draft process just the versatility that he can be a safety in the league. He can be a slot in the league. Yeah. If you're just saying let's collect good players, that's a really interesting name right there, because I think
then you'd have to move up, because I got to believe he's going to be an early pick today.
Oh, I agree with you. That's one where you move up for, but because they didn't trade yesterday, they do have the flexibility if they wanted to move up.
That would be fascinating. You walk away with DeJean and Mitchell. Wow, that would be. And look, you and I talked about this before. Their secondary has not been they've been riddled by good quarterbacks. Really, even in the Super Bowl year, they gave up. The good quarterbacks had success down the field on them. So, I mean, look, if you're able to fix, and I agree with you with DeJean when it comes to safety. That's another spot that I'm looking at. Jaden Hicks, I like too as a pure safety.
Yep. Yeah, you're absolutely correct there, and they've really tried to solve their secondary in the past decade via free agency, via trade. If you're able to get young building blocks in that group, I think now that you're in day 2, especially, you're not Like what you're trying to do is you're trying to find good value. You're trying to find guys who are going to be here, not necessarily for this year, but these next few years. You have that foundation. The Eagles really haven't had a foundation in the secondary. So I'm not suggesting that safety is going to be a priority, but if there's a guy on the board, even though you took corner yesterday, don't hesitate to do it again if you think you can have foundation pieces back there.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Let's look at tomorrow and kind of like, because I know we're looking at rounds 2 and 3 today. Are there any guys that you like when you look at kind of how this thing projecting as a day 3 guy that we should keep our eye out on?
Yeah, I would pay attention to developmental pass rushers because the Eagles are set with their kind of top 4 this year. You know that with Bryce Huff, Josh Sweat, Brandon Graham, and Nolan Smith. But of that group, only Huff and Smith are under contract. So someone like Jalix Hunt, who he's from Houston Christian, was a safety at Cornell. Now, I know there's some steam that he could go day 2, but he's a guy who year 1 might not be there, but year 3 with the athletic traits.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that's someone if he's sticking around day 4. In like round 4 or something of that nature. If they don't add guard today, a name I would watch is Zach Zinter. Zach Zinter was a standout guard at Michigan. Broke his leg in that Michigan-Ohio State game. Kept him out of the pre-draft process. If you're able to get the injury discount on him, I think he's a guy who can step in and contribute. The Eagles brought him in for a visit. They brought Hunt in for a visit. So those are kind of 2 names that I would watch for early day 3.
Yeah, and you know how he likes to shop down that aisle, the injury upside aisle.
It worked for them with Landon Dickerson. Landon Dickerson should have been a first-round pick. He obviously got hurt in the college football playoffs, or the SEC championship rather, and then he's starting week 2, week 3 of his rookie season, and now he's a $20 million a year guard.
Yeah, I got to tell you, this is the best, man. We just love this thing. What's your schedule today, Zechariah?
Yeah, so we will be. I'll be on with Bo throughout the draft, just like last night's fun. We're doing the live viewing. Then I hop over to NovaCare, talk to Howie, talk to Nick. Quinyon Mitchell's in the building today. Going to try to get over there. We have our show at 7, so depending on when Quinyon gets there and that I-95 traffic to get to the studio, I will be able to speak to Mitchell in person. I had a piece that I filed at or that I posted at about 2:30 a.m. with some initial thoughts on Mitchell. Once I get off the call here, I'm going to put up something on allphly.com looking at some of their top options for today. So we're covered on the screen, on your podcast, and then also for the reading material on allphly.com.
I love it. I love it, man. You're killing it. Keep doing it. We love the draft. We love our coverage. Zach Berman killing it here at All Eagles PHLY. Thanks, brother. Have a great weekend. Enjoy this weekend, buddy.
We all silly like the mayor.